Hello, everybody. We are the RPGeeks, and welcome to the DnDebrief. This is episode 8 of our science chat show, analysing the science behind our Dungeons & Dragons adventures. So we're going to go around and introduce ourselves now before we get into some excellent science. I will start off. Hello there. My name is Shamini. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a science video journalist who loves D&D and TTRPGs. Simon.
Hello, I'm Simon. I use he, him pronouns, and I am a professional nerd. I'm mostly making YouTube videos, but occasionally I stream and other things like that. And my background, I feel like we never actually said this before. My background's in physics.
Like,
I think we've said that before.
We must have done at some point, but it's like otherwise it's just like, oh yeah, we'll let him in. Like, we'll let Mr. Streamer in. I am a psychommer with a background in science. That's why I'm here, basically. As is Emily Bates.
That's true. I am a psychommer with a background in science. I originally did a degree in neuroscience and biomedical sciences, and then I went and started making TV instead and documentaries about all kinds of stuff. And now I work for a science magazine doing their videos, which is pretty fun. And is that everything I have to say? Do I have to mention? No, I use she, her pronouns, and I also love D&D. Ali.
Woo.
I love D&D. I have pronouns that are he, him, and I always get flustered when I am asked these questions. I also have a background in science, and I am also a communicator of science to various people. I think that's it.
Why do you get flustered when you're so smooth at
I know.
describing it, though, Ali? Sorry.
You asked. I think
Are you quite finished?
Oh, I was
done?
being sarcastic. So sorry.
I think Ali's quite smooth.
Sorry.
I think compared to the rest of us, Ali's pretty smooth. He says,
like
cackling.
that. You like that really
Sorry.
kind of like disjointed Emily. I know what I'm saying.
There's a touch
It's
of
just slow,
Shatner
okay?
creeping in.
He went to space.
He went to
Shatner's been
space!
shot off to space.
And then Bezos was like, get me a bottle of champagne while William Shatner was being all emotional about how beautiful space was. Has everyone seen that clip? It's
no.
awful.
Oh.
Just if you just type in Jeff Bezos, William Shatner, space, I'm sure it'll come up as like the first thing now. Basically, yeah, William Shatner's clearly like really emotional, just got out of the Blue Origin capsule. And he's like literally almost shaking with how like clearly in wonder he is. And Bezos just like cuts him off and is like, get me a bottle. I need a bottle. I want one. And then is like, hands it to Shatner, and Shatner's just there like, no, I'm fine, like, and then just waxes lyrical about how beautiful the experience was. And it's like the two sides, and it's like, I know which side I fall on.
He's 90? Is that right?
He's
Hey,
90.
oh my god.
90.
He's 90.
He's
He went
now
to bloody
officially the-
space.
Oldest American ever to go into
I
space.
think he's the oldest person, isn't he?
For some reason I saw American quoted, but I don't know who would be older, so maybe.
Yeah, like why would... I mean, surely the only time you would send somebody older would be on a commercial space flight, and that's been so recent.
How old was
Wally
Wally?
Funk?
Was
Yeah,
Wally?
she's
My fave.
Wally Funk.
Oh, I thought you meant
Yeah.
Wally the robot.
No, Wally Funk.
Robot.
Wally Funk.
Is there-
No, she's 82, so.
Oh, wow.
Yes, she was the
Although
oldest.
also damn.
And now he...
Oh,
yeah.
they took it away from her with William Shatner.
Yeah.
I mean, we love William
William
Shatner.
Shatner.
He was great in Miss Congeniality.
When are they going to send Patrick
So-
Stewart up? When are we going to get the best captain?
Guys, we've gone back to films again. This happens every time. I'm bringing it back. This is not a film show or a film podcast.
We're going to
okay?
talk to
Congeniality
D&D
is a
before
cracking
I
film.
count to
No,
5.
No.
One.
Guys, come on now. Come on now. Let's be sensible. I was going to suggest a very brief plot update before explaining the topics we're going to talk about today and how they fit into said plot. So, Ali, as the gamesmith, would you like to deliver onto us? Yes.
I like that.
I just can't get the portmanteau word. Like, if you combine plot and update, you get plop date, right? That's all I can think of now.
Okay,
so I
give
can't
us
do
the
this
plot
update.
Give us the plot. No, what is it? The plot.
Plop date.
Plop
Plop
date.
date.
Like plop. Like, oh.
Amazing.
Plop date. the party have come into the mountains for reasons unknown, and they've been given a mission to find a load of smugglers, and they chased them to a mine. They went down into the mine. Various things happen, sort of undergroundy sort of things, and then they came up against. Well, they found a sort of huge and strange wall.
Spoilers. I mean, we're going to be talking
about
it.
What? Wait.
You can do spoilers, Ali.
Like, but don't give away anything with the plot. But recap the plot.
I like to tell people in case they were wondering whether that's a spoiler or not. This plot update is indeed.
What else do you want?
Plot update.
Yeah. Anyway, so but having found that, they've had an altercation. It's basically like a climactic moment they've just had, and we've actually sort of cut on a cliffhanger. And we'll be getting back to that in a couple of weeks.
A wall hanger.
Yeah, nice.
Nice.
I started saying it and I was like, it's bad, and I just carried on. So
I'm gonna talk about the science now. Stop laughing at me. I'm going first this week. It's me and Bates this week. Tell it who have gone away, researched some science topics. And mine is tangentially related. The problem is you get a topic and then you sort of go off down a Wikipedia rabbit hole of fascinating facts. But where mine started with was the this amazing cave that we were in our last session that Ali described to us as basically being full of crystals. Can you just give us the little description again? So it's kind of
why did you
weird
not, in like the literal 20 minutes that we've been saying, like, why did you not say, what about the description? Just so you know.
I'm sorry. I just thought of it. I was crystals, but...
Okay, I'll just try and riff it off the top of my head. But no, essentially it was... No, because you saw this wall and it was covered in these crystals growing out of it, but behind the crystals was light, and the light was refracting and diffracting through the crystals into all different kinds of colours, and there was a glowing sort of movement to it, so it wasn't sort of static, it was shimmering almost through all these crystals, and the crystals were growing out of the floor as well in these kind of crystalline
kind of
trees.
Huge, right? Like we're basically in a forest of crystals.
Well, the whole cavern was huge. Like the measurement I had was it was 150 meters from when we entered to the wall, which is enormous.
Yeah, I think that was right. Yeah,
but also
the wall 50 meters.
I have 100.
150 meters to the wall. Wow. And then the wall, the roof of the cavern shelves upwards as well, very steeply, so you couldn't see the top.
So
I
looked up biggest crystals in the world, and I when I saw it, I've seen photos of it before, so this might be familiar. But there's a cave in Mexico, and with these particular sort of, and it's all sort of like crisscrossy crystals, and the biggest one is 12 meters long with a 4-meter diameter.
Is it the chandelier cave of chandeliers or something like that?
I don't know.
It's got a name a bit like that.
It's on planet Earth.
It's in planet Earth, yes.
It's planet Earth where you see it.
Really?
Yeah, the chandelier ballroom.
But also, I remember this because in the behind the scenes of that episode, which was always the most interesting bit of Planet Earth to me anyway, it was like a 5-day expedition to get down, and not see the sun and sleep underground, to get to this place to film. That's crazy.
Creepy.
That's kind of what we did as well, right? How many days have we been underground?
It's been a few days.
You don't really know anymore, do you?
We slept. We only slept once.
It's the Lechu Goya.
You technically slept twice, but that's because you got knocked out.
An enforced short rest.
What's super interesting, I think, is that when they go down there and they sort of find these crystals, they find bacteria living on the crystals, right? Like eating the crystal rock itself.
And so they sort of survive purely on the crystal.
Yeah, they do some crazy bacterial shit and just munch away at the crystal.
Bacteria.
Yeah, so cool. This is going to be...
Or rock. Maybe not the crystal, maybe the rock. I don't know how that...
The Planet Earth cave wasn't in Mexico. It was in New Mexico in the United States, I believe. Yeah.
Cool.
And it was the Chandelier Ballroom was the name of the the cave that they mostly filmed. Which, if people haven't seen, look it up on YouTube. It is astonishing.
It's one of my for that moment, that episode. I must have watched that about 1 million times.
I mean,
there is definitely a crystal cave in Mexico, though. I don't know if I'm going to pronounce it right, but Naka's cave.
I decided not to try and learn the name of it,
yeah,
so I was just like, cave in Mexico, big crystals. He looked at the name and was like, don't know what that says. I'm gonna ignore that. But huge, giant geological crystals, which I mean, I just think it's fascinating that this D&D sort of fantasy invention is, you know, can be real, and geology and chemistry can produce these amazing structures. And then I went off into a whole rabbit hole of crystals. My favorite fun thing was a little science experiment that you can try at home, growing crystals yourself. So can anyone
crystals, not crystal meth, everyone. Crystals, not crystal meth, just to be clear.
Jesus Christ, Marie! They're minerals!
Can anyone think of the common household face nose that you could go?
Miss, pick me. Is it salt?
It's salt. Salt's a crystal. It's great.
NaCl.
And
it was all the different poses. Like you get tied with one hand and you're like, and then you have to like switch.
Oh, just trying to keep your hand up. I didn't pick you, Simon. I'm sorry, it's gone. Your chance is gone. I picked Emily.
And they pick something else and you're just like, oh.
So
like long repressed memory there for Ali. My world has ended. Oh.
But then what often happens is they give a different answer and you're like, and then it's right. And you're like, oh.
Thank God. Yeah. Sorry, Shamini, do carry on.
I'm going to give you some crystal basics, okay? Just listen to my crystal basics. My crystal basics are...
That you find them in California on no, sorry. Carry on.
Don't get it. Okay, I'm going to carry on.
Worry. You keep going.
Okay. It's just like regularly ordered atoms and things. Just all lined up in an order. Yes, Ali.
Okay, wait, just quickly,
Ali's
podcast listeners,
well.
we're doing a lot of hand up mime for those who can't see.
But as if we're in primary school, like really enthusiastic. We're really going through it.
Yes, Ali.
Yeah, yes, when you try and lift the whole side of your body up, you're like, this side must be high. That's in my arm.
Do you know anything about crystals, Ali?
Being really quiet, Miss, pick me.
No, you're not being quiet. You're saying pick me.
But
Yes,
like,
you're not allowed to say
Miss.
No, Ali, shush. I already picked you. Ali, I picked you.
Thank you. I want to know the regular structure, is that like a really low energy state? Is that how it gets there, or is that got nothing to do with that?
Why are some solids crystalline and why are some solids amorphous?
I believe it is a low energy state.
Oh.
But it depends on it depends on several things. So it depends obviously on the actual stuff that it is, and it depends on how it's formed. So I'm going to talking about how crystals form, because crystals, like you said, like crystals grow, crystals form in a certain way. Oh, yes, Emily. Yeah.
She's
Is
put her hand
ice
up.
a crystal?
Oh yes. Well, so ice is a crystalline solid. So a snowflake is a single crystal. Usually, I think, which grows and is a crystal, whereas ice would be a polycrystalline solid. So, you know, we have mentioned before about ice cream crystals, haven't we? If you're making, okay, maybe that was just me. I think about ice cream a lot. If you are making ice cream, you get the creamiest texture when you have the smallest crystals. So what you want is lots and lots of little crystals to form at once. They can't get super big because they bump into the one next door, and then that gives it its really creamy texture. Whereas if you wanted to grow a nice big salt crystal in your house, say, you would want a single crystal to grow as big as possible.
Is that why when you put ice cream back in the fridge after you've taken it out and it's got all melting, you're like, and then when you put it back in, because you're freezing it quite slowly compared to how fast it was frozen in the factory, you get bigger crystals, and when you take it out again, you're like, oh, it's not as good.
Sometimes it's properly crunchy as well.
Because the problem you're having there is you're not finishing the tub when you take it out the first.
Rookie move.
And all your errors will all go away, all the problems.
Because the ice cream back away quickly and don't let it melt, because that's a health
But
risk.
what do you do with Ben and Jerry's when it's just great to eat it from the tub, but you don't want to eat the whole tub?
Get a bowl.
You just eat
Emily.
the whole tub even though you don't want to.
Exactly, Ali. That's the correct answer.
Because it's the same in geology. Like if you look at rocks, the larger the larger the crystal size, the longer the crystals took to form. Like
exactly
the size of the crystal is proportional to how long it takes to form.
Wait. But presumably different sort of molecules take different lengths of time to form crystals, right? Like some crystals
and slightly
form
different
more easily.
conditions, temperature and stuff. So crystals often form out of water. They might precipitate out of the water. The water might evaporate away. So what you do to grow crystals at home, to grow salt crystals, say, is you get some hot water and you dissolve as much salt in it as possible. And you basically just keep adding salt until it is not just saturated, but in fact super saturated, because you're dissolving it when it's hot, and then you're letting the water cool down. So that water now has even more crystals in, even more salt in than would usually be able to dissolve. And then you give it a like a seed, like a point to grow off. So ideally you want to make sure that there's no leftover, like pour it out so there's no leftover salt grains in it, otherwise it'll probably form around that. And one thing you can do is put a like piece of string on a pencil and dangle the string into the liquid, and crystals will start forming around that string. And you can put like food coloring in and make them pretty colors as well.
I might do this before our next episode, so we can see. Should we all do a crystal and see who makes the best crystal?
It does take quite a long time depending on the kind of salt you use. Like some of these can take weeks.
What's the best kind of salt to use?
I can't remember, but there's
the really posh stuff.
Himalayan.
Pink Himalayan.
I can't remember, but
like
it
not just regular
whether,
old like table salt.
You can use table salt. It depends what effects. Like some of them are faster, slower. Some of them are more likely to give bigger crystals, things like that.
And do you get? Sorry,
I was going to say I don't understand from a molecular perspective, because as we've already said, crystals are just regular atoms. Like it's just a lattice. Because we actually in my physics degree we studied the various ways, because you can pack. It's all to do with like the efficiency of packing stuff. So you can have like atoms or molecules just on the vertices of like a cube that then repeats, or you can have base centered ones where you have like an atom or a molecule in the center as well, or you can have face centered ones where you have them in the center of like each face of the cube, so you actually pack way more in. I don't understand why you need a nucleation point in order to initiate that, and why it doesn't just spontaneously happen if it is a low energy state.
It can spontaneously happen. Have you ever seen the experiment where this is another supersaturated cool it down one, but it's not salt, it's the one that goes instantly, that if you get this supersaturated solution, cool it down, it would go by itself, but what you can also do is just like tap it.
It's water, isn't it?
Disrupting it.
In like a freezer, if it's perfectly still and there are no impurities in it, and you just like really gently take it out of the freezer and you slam
that
it.
Wasn't the one. There's a particular chemical reaction that's a lot easier to do that with than water, but yes, you can do it with other things as well.
We used to have that in my old lab. You basically have very high sucrose solution, so like just lots of really high concentrations of sucrose and a load of other stuff in it, and you could cool it down to like minus 7 or 8 something, and it would just still be liquid. It looked like water, and you'd pour it in. And then as soon as you started doing stuff in it, the crystals would start forming around your hands. Like it was sort of like, whoa, and then become all crystals. Ooh. But I was going to ask, like, my thought that the way crystals would work is like, you have a molecule, and when another molecule sort of sits next to it, there's a particular configuration which is really like stable. And then when it hits that configuration, it's like, boom, I'm going to stay here. And then another molecule sort of adds itself on top, and when it gets to that configuration, it stays, boom, 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 and that's how they build out the crystal. Is that right, or is that just nonsense?
Shamini, for the podcast viewers, is just shaking her head.
I don't know. I like that. Sounds intuitive. What's actually going on at the molecular level? I don't know.
Like the extent of my knowledge about it was mostly interrogating crystals with X-rays. Because you put radiation through, and depending on the angles that it scatters through, tells you the structure. That's mostly what the course was about.
amazing, and also, you know, brings me on to my favorite topic, biology. Oh yeah.
As if you've turned crystals into biology, Shamini.
Oh, yeah.
I am so impressed.
Has everyone heard of photograph 51? That
Yes.
was,
That
was
was
the,
DNA one.
the name. Yeah.
That's no, what, oh my god, Rosalind Franklin.
Rosalind
That's
Franklin.
her DNA X-ray.
It's
that
the
she did.
famous one. It's the famous. So Rosalind Franklin was an X-ray crystallographer, and one of the things that she was shooting X-rays at was crystals of DNA. And photograph 51 was the key one that I think. I don't know.
The boys
what's
stole
incorrect.
her.
I think they.
But
I think they
Cricken
nicked it
Watson
or
discovered
whatever.
DNA structure.
Get in the bin, Simon. Also, there's a very good play called Photograph 51 that I saw Nicole
Yes.
Kidman do
Oh
in
my
London.
God, me too.
All
So
about
good.
it. It's very good.
Oh.
It's really sad. She died.
It's really sad.
Really young. It's
She died and they
tragic.
stole her work. It's
Really
devastating.
bad.
Yeah.
They were such douchebags.
But the thing is,
But
I don't know how what about the photo 51 was so nailed the fact that it was a double helix, because I think that was the key complicating factor, wasn't it? It was the geometry.
Yeah. So I mean, X-ray crystallography, interpreting the data from X-ray crystallography is like massively difficult, and you can't look if you look at the diffraction pattern. So you basically kind of mentioned this already, Simon, didn't you? That you shoot X-rays at something, and diffraction is, you know, like the classic thing of in my textbook there was definitely a photo of a harbour, and there were some waves coming out of through the harbour wall, and if the gap in the harbour wall has some relationship to the wavelength, then they sort of diffract and spread outwards.
But it's more like a diffraction grating. It's like lots of slits next to each other, but then they're also repeat like lots of those stacked on top of one another.
Oh, that's
Which is
that
why it
crazy
has
shit
to
like
be
photons
crystal.
do, isn't it?
Yeah, photon shit, stuff like that.
No.
But also, if I remember rightly, this was 2 Nobel Prizes in a row. Was it the Braggs? It was like
Braggs was an X-ray crystallographer.
But I think he won the Nobel Prize, and then his son won a Nobel Prize at the age of like 23. I think it might be the youngest laureate in physics, maybe. I'm
For
not
doing
certain. For doing X-ray crystallography, like they both worked in the same field.
Just for being boss at it.
Yeah, but it was
So basically,
it was nascent. Like the field was still quite new, I think, when they were doing their work.
a lot of women working in X-ray crystallography, apparently.
Yeah.
There was a brief note on Wikipedia that suggested that this was because that they were like less accepted in other areas of science.
What about crystallography was so
Yeah, I don't
welcoming?
know. I didn't
Well-
look into it any further. I just
Well,
was like,
historically,
oh,
so at that time, that's the kind of time when a lot of women were used in science. Women frequently worked as computers, so they were the people that did the really monotonous maths tasks. And I wonder if it's because there's a lot of measuring the distance between peaks
and the interpreting of the patterns. So you have these diffraction grating effects. You have these like blobs and things, and basically you have to try and work out, which is all done with computers now, how the exact ways that the X-rays have bent and caused a blob here relates to what they've gone through. And I tried to look up, like, you know, how does the periodicity of these dots relate, you know, show that DNA has a, you know, the distance between the periodicity of the curve of the twist, basically. And I was like, no, it's just mind-meltingly complex. And what they could what they do for such ridiculously complex structures, huge molecules, proteins. You think how complex, you know, a protein in our body is.
Is this Alex Lathbridge? Is he into the chat?
Does Alex love proteins?
No.
Literally, you talk to
You
Alex
You know
about
he loves proteins.
you talk to Alex about
What?
anything, and he'd be like, "Well, see, the thing is, the protein does
Proteins
this."
are great. But figuring out the structure of proteins, X-ray crystallography. But the other thing that I find weird about that is obviously you have to take your protein and make it be a crystal. Like you have to try and crystallize it.
Yeah, well, so what?
Oh, that's cool.
Like, any old muffin can, like, point an X-ray at a pre-crystallized thing.
Yeah.
And then... But it's really difficult to make the crystal in the first place and then work out what the
Any old muffin.
you've seen afterwards.
Yeah.
Any old muffin. That's a great
I
phrase.
love that.
Sorry, that's
Also used in
that's not
conjunction with
mystical.
technical. Any old muffin could build a particle accelerator. I don't know why I went Alfred then. Master Wayne. Any old
That's the
muffin could
meme.
put on the suit.
Any old muffin can do brain surgery. That's the meme now, everyone.
Why do we fall off the table, Master Muffin?
We've gone back to films again.
For various different words.
Sorry.
You're talking about films. Are you sneaking film conversation
No,
in
miss.
when I wasn't paying attention?
We were, Shamini, I'm sorry.
Don't rat on us, Emily.
I don't get the references, so I'm like, this is probably some science that Simon's talking about here. Master Wayne is probably
Yes,
that's
Master
not
Wayne
physicist.
science. Bat science. You love bats, Shamini. You know you love the science of bats. So it's
True.
Bat fan.
Exactly.
Okay, carry on about
What I was
crystals,
saying.
please.
Oh, growing crystals.
How do they
bloody
heal you
nightmare.
when you like rub them on you?
Great
Well,
question.
I haven't done my own research into the healing powers of crystals.
Sure.
But I would suggest that while you might find an effect, it might also be sensible to wait for some peer-reviewed evidence supporting the healing power of crystals before spending your money.
Also, totally unrelated side note, should we talk about the placebo effect one day?
We
Just,
should,
you know,
'cause
on a
that's
different
great.
one.
I do
Maybe?
love the placebo
Yeah.
effect.
Maybe what we should do is take one
Sorry,
of the
back to
crystals,
crystals.
take a tiny bit of crystal and dilute it in like 1,000,000 parts of water.
Yes. Yeah.
Can we do
Yeah,
a
they're
rant
amazing.
episode where we just talk about
To
homeopathy
be fair,
and crystals?
that is probably how you actually do a crystallography on a protein. You probably turn the protein into a crystal, dilute it massively.
But I mean, can I have a homeopathy rant just for a second?
I know,
No,
because
okay,
we're
all right,
really
I'll say
over
it, I'll say
time.
it.
We're
Oh, are we?
going to
I'm
do a
sorry.
proper placebo effect one day because we're running late, I think. But you're good. But I think the whole timing of tonight.
Quick note before we move on from crystals, because obviously one of the things about the cave
No,
is
we haven't
that
moved on from crystals.
the like it's being illuminated by the wall. So did you have a chance to look at any, like luminescent crystals, or is that something that you come across?
Wait,
No.
the crystal itself isn't luminescent, right? It's the light shining from the wall through the crystal.
Oh, okay. And we don't know what the source
We're
of the light
gonna
is yet.
Talk a bit about luminescence when we get onto guiding bolts, so we can
Hold
cross
your
this a
horses,
little.
everybody. Keen beans. Okay, all right. Scratch all of
Shamini,
that.
what else you got?
I've got
Want your best crystal
two
facts?
more fun facts. One of my fun facts is that impurities in crystals can change the way they look. So rubies and sapphires are basically the same thing. Rubies have a bunch of chromium in there.
Well, it's
Extra
like,
chromium atoms making it red.
Himalayan rock
Nice.
salt looks different from normal salt because it's basically just an impurity in the salt structure. Like it's still sodium
Sorry,
chloride,
extra
but
things
it's just an
sprinkled
extra
in
thing in there.
But rubies and sapphires are made of this. What is the material they're made of? What's the
I can't
element?
remember. Someone look it up.
Okay, I'm on it.
I
I need
didn't
to
write
know
it down.
this.
Yeah,
That's so interesting because,
Something you
like,
can find out.
so are emeralds the same? Do we know, or is it just?
Well, it's one of these structures that's not like
I'm just going through Pokemon games until we work out which are the same.
corundum.
That's
apparently.
what you're doing.
Yeah,
You're making,
aluminium
are you secretly
oxide,
talking
right?
about video games.
But that's something
very
that's been
close,
discovered.
right?
There are exoplanet atmospheres that have been discovered with massive traces of corundum in. So there, Hannah Wakeford is a friend of mine at Bristol Uni, who's a lecturer. Actually, researched planets that effectively they think rain like rubies
Still
and sapphires.
planets. I forgot. I could have researched that. I didn't. I've definitely heard.
They're a
that.
diamond planet.
Diamond planets. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Well,
So
is
you-
it a planet
so-
or is it a diamond star? Because is that not just carbon that's been like massively compressed?
No, I'm pretty sure there's a diamond planet.
Is-
Is that in sci-fi though, or in the real world? I'm
No,
Googling it.
it's
You
real.
can't
know
It's
anymore,
real.
mate. It
They're
doesn't
a diamond
I
planet.
think it's real.
It matters
think
if
it's
you
real.
think it's real.
Shamini, give us the other facts.
No, that's
One-
not how science works, Ali.
Final fun random thing.
It's real.
that's related to crystals is it's real. Diamond planets. Diamond planets are real. You heard it here first. Crystal healing. We don't like to say. I'm trying to be nice. My other one is
I won't. Fuck you if you believe in crystal healing.
Go to a
And
doctor.
welcome to the D&D brief.
Okay.
and
We deal
fuck
with
you
data
if
here
you
and
think-
science.
Hey, no. The placebo effect is a real thing that does work. However,
You know what else works?
Go to a
Fucking
doctor.
medicine. Like, chemotherapy.
we're going back to the rants. Okay, right.
Sorry.
True.
Shamini.
quartz. If you squeeze quartz, you squeeze it, it produces a tiny electrical current.
Piezo
And-
electricity.
If you give it a tiny electrical current, it vibrates at a very specific frequency that you can time watches off.
Well, I knew that. Because that's how they do watches.
That's how watches work. Yeah.
So is that actually how watches keep time? The ones with quartz in?
Yeah. It vibrates at 3,200. Oh wait, no, 32. 3,000. 32,700.
Number with a 3 and a 2 and some zeros.
Time vibrations per second.
Now, if I remember rightly, that's a power of
that's
2, which is why, like, if you use flip-flops, you can, like, the electrical components, you can basically turn that into a on-off signal. Like, Steve Mould, who's a great science YouTuber, has done a video on this. Like, I think it's specifically they use quartz because it's common and because it vibrates at a...
What are you talking about?
The frequency is a power of 2. If I remember.
You started talking about flip-flops, and I thought it was a joke, and I've no idea. You've lost me completely.
Wait, how do flip-flops do an on-off switch?
What? It basically like halves the frequency of an input signal, if I remember rightly. So like you effectively just stack enough of them together, and you go from whatever 32,000 whatever it is hertz into like a 1 hertz signal that you can then use, because 1 hertz is a second hand on a clock, if I remember rightly.
But
nice.
But why did you say flip-flops?
Because that's the term. That's the term for the component.
Oh my god, I thought you were talking about an experiment where they use flip-flops, and I was so confused. Okay.
Just little teeny tiny flip-flops against that piece of quartz.
Physicist, biologist.
Flip-flops.
Footwear specialist.
I mean, biologist.
Sorry,
exactly,
yeah.
like
physicist,
shoes.
podiatrist. World of difference.
Yes, I am a podiatrist.
In conclusion, crystals are cool. Crystals are everywhere. Crystals are in far more places than I thought they would be. You can grow them. They grow in rocks. They're shiny and pretty.
We love it.
We love crystals.
This show brought to you by Big Crystal.
That industry, that whole industry, Big Crystal.
Under the thumb, the quartz thumb of Big Crystal.
It's so painful under here.
And if Big Crystal applies pressure, we feel an electric current. It's the other thing we've learned.
It's torture.
Wow.
Torture. Okay, so
speaking of torture, Emily, what's
amazing.
your?
Well, I mean, torture is kind of relevant because it is, my character did kill someone with a guiding bolt in the last episode. So Infinity.
Remind me what happened.
So we were fighting by the big wall, and that Darax guy came back from the dead. Which, by the way, we didn't.
Again?
No, not from the dead. No, not from the dead. We didn't kill him the first time.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't kill him
got
the first
better.
time. Otherwise, I was about to be like, wait, why didn't we do this for the D&D brief? But he didn't. He didn't die. He got better.
We turned Garrix into a mute.
It's happening.
And my character used guiding bolt spell on him, and Ali beautifully described it. A beam of light just sort of bore through him, and he fell to the ground, and it was lovely. Now, what did happen though is as we did it, he went down, and if he hadn't have gone down, you'd have seen the other effect of guiding bolt. So I'm going to read the spell description for guiding bolt. A flash of light streaks towards a creature of your choice within range. On a hit, the target takes radiant damage, and the next attack roll made against this target before the end of your turn has advantage, thanks to the mystical dim light glittering on the target until then. So what Guiding Bolt does is not only does it do damage, it also lights up the character so that other people can hit it easier.
Huh. Hence guiding.
So I needed something, exactly. So I needed something that could do damage and also kind of like light up a Christmas tree, kind of like, or make him all sparkly. We didn't need it because we killed him. But now, okay, bear with me because I had two ideas. So we're going to verge from biology to physics quite wildly. So my first option was flesh-eating bacteria that are also bioluminescent. Now, I couldn't find any examples. However, it just sounds cool, right? Yeah. So there's flesh-eating bacteria. It doesn't
it sounds awful, but yeah.
It sounds awful.
Now hold up. This idea sounds great. Couldn't find any examples, but I would have thought
it's two things that bacteria are known to be able to do.
Yeah, surely.
Exactly.
We can genetically modify the bacteria. This is a world with a lot of.
They'd also have to multiply insanely quickly, though.
Well, what are they doing?
So we've already established that Infinity has stem cells within her and has the ability to rapidly produce stem cells. Otherwise, none of my spells with plants are ever going to work. We haven't explained how yet.
You can't produce a bacteria from a stem cell. That is a very
but
You're totally right.
I presume what you mean is that you can also induce fast replication of stem cells, which would
yes,
also apply to
however,
bacteria. That's what I thought you meant.
Yes, correct. But I totally didn't even think of that.
I assumed you thought of that.
Yes.
Ali just dropped the petri dish.
And then Shamini caught it and handed it back to Bates.
No, Bates has got.
And then she was like, "No, this should have smashed. Actually, it was smashed."
I don't want it.
So noble, Bates. Fall on your sword.
But that basically, I don't want that one because that wasn't my first idea for how I wanted guiding bolt to work. I wanted guiding bolt for something. When I heard, it can light someone up and also do damage, I immediately was like, radiation. Let's go. Like that green glowing, radiation damage.
Right.
Exactly. Mr. Burns and Homer Simpson with his green glowing little stick of plutonium in the intro. How fantastic. This is going to be really easy. Right. And then I started reading about radiation and what colours radiation is. And radioactive things don't just glow green. They don't. It's a lie.
Do they glow at all?
What big radiation has taught you.
Big radiation.
Is there no, visible component?
Yeah, so there is some form of glowing. So pure radium emits alpha particles, which is their sort of radiation that they throw out, and that excites nitrogen in the air around it, and it causes it to glow. But the color isn't green; it's like a pale blue kind of color, and it's what Marie Curie described when she was working with it. So in reality,
was like hanging out close enough with a bunch of pure radium to just be like,
she died of radiation poisoning. That's
she was very
that's how
radioactive.
She went down. Yeah, very.
She earned those Nobel prizes.
Yeah, well, she's also a bit problematic, so let's cut the Marie Curie.
Big
into epigenetics, very big into it.
Do you mean
eugenics?
Am I talking about eugenics?
Yeah.
That's the word I'm thinking of. Epigenetics. I don't know if it's through the she's really into eugenics, really into it. Moving away from her,
just thinking
quite
she'd
quickly.
Be a great YouTube influencer. That's the sort of person who you'd be like, oh my god, this person, I'm really into it, and then suddenly you're like, oh my god, most of these videos
cancelled.
Cancelled by Mary.
All right.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, so I was like, well, where did this green thing that we think of as radioactive things come from? And basically it comes from, they got radium and they were like, oh cool, this is radium, this works. And they found that if it interacts with phosphor, then it does glow green, but it has to interact with, so it's phospholuminescence. I think that's the right way of saying it.
So if you coat your radium with phosphor, it'll glow green.
Yeah, so it's just the way that it, hang on, I've got it written here somewhere. So the alpha particles force the electrons in phosphor to jump to a higher level. And when they fall back down to where they're meant to be, they emit the green.
It's a classic electronic kind of band gap.
Yeah.
Did that happen at some point, and that's why everyone has green in their heads, or was there? So
they started using it. They started mixing it. I don't know who necessarily was the first, but the big company that comes up if you look into it is a company called US Radium, and they created something called Undark, because it glowed in the dark, and they basically created glow in the dark paint by mixing radium in with phosphor. And they started using it. So there were soldiers, and if they wanted to check their watch at night, they couldn't see the hands of their watch, and if they were on the battlefield, they couldn't light a torch because it would give away your position. So they created this paint that they could paint on their watches, and it was on jet planes. It's like the dials and stuff that would glow in the dark, so everyone could see and they wouldn't get shot down. Very nice.
So it was for military uses.
What era was this?
As everything.
World War II.
This is World War II. No, it's before then, because it was in the 1920s that they were doing it. So I assume it was around between World War I and World War II.
But it was Americans that were doing it, and if it was American soldiers, I don't know what conflicts they were involved in between World War I.
Oh, hang on. I've literally got it. I've got it here. During the First World War, to produce Undark.
Because
high-tech paint, which allowed America's infantrymen to read their wristwatches.
But there is
so in the 20s, it becomes much more widespread,
commercially available.
And we're going to go into another lovely sad story. Everyone, are we all ready for it? Now, you might have heard of it. It's about the Radium Girls. Apparently, there was a movie on it in 2020, which I didn't hear about. But anyway, it looks quite good. I've watched the trailer. And so US Radium employed hundreds of women in their factories to do the delicate painting of the numbers on the watches. I assume they didn't wear the watches while they did it. I don't know why I'm holding it up. Like they just put the watch on and then painted their hand.
Told you it was stuff.
Like, oh, that's the end of my shift.
Yeah, got to paint the number on. Yeah,
just doodling
like,
on their own arms
already. And so basically, it's because they were like, well, we'll get the women to do it because it needs their dainty little hands.
The delicate touch.
Dainty little hands to do the delicate painting. And they paid pretty well for women's work in those days, and so they didn't have any problems getting people in. And what they said to these women, now when radium first was discovered, they were like, oh look, we can use it on cancer, and there was another use that was good. And I can't think what it was, but basically there was like these things, and they were like, oh, maybe radiums are X-rays. So they were like, it helps with X-rays, and maybe not radium. I don't know if radium's using X-rays. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. Not sure.
Don't think so, because you don't want alpha radiation. That will just burn your skin. You want gamma.
Well, no, alpha's better.
Well, no, for X-rays you want X-rays. You don't want. Right,
exactly. Yeah, they're different things. So, but alpha can't go through your skin. Beta can go through your skin, and gamma can just like.
Gamma doesn't care. Gamma's got.
Gamma's like, I got you. But they start. Where was I? Yeah. So they've started making like radium soda, radium toothpaste, and like it was all being marketed everywhere as like radium, like it's great, like it kills bad stuff. So go for it. Not going along with. They didn't realize. Well, they say they didn't realize that it also kills a lot of good stuff too. But these women who were doing the painting, they had these very fine brushes. And Simon, you do your miniature painting stream. When the brush is getting a bit splayed, you just sort of stick it in your mouth and you just tighten it up with your lips, right? I assume that's what you do.
Paint liquor.
Yeah, paint liquor. So they were putting these brushes that were covered in this radiated paint into their mouths. And also these girls knew that if they painted their fingernails with it, they would glow in the dark. When they got home, there's like reports of them painting their teeth to like scare their boyfriends and things when they got home, and like using it as blush and being like, look how pretty and glowing we are. And they thought they were doing everything okay because they've been told, and their bosses were telling them, it's fine, just, go for it, radium's fine. However, what makes us think that maybe the bosses knew they were lying was whenever the bosses actually like handled the radium or anything, they wouldn't touch it unless they were wearing gloves. They always used tongs. And they would have like lead screens up. So clearly they were slightly aware that something wasn't great. Now, one of the things about radium is it interacts very similarly to how calcium does in the body. So it gets into bones and into all kinds of lovely tissues. And so these girls eventually started getting tooth pain, and their teeth started falling out, and they basically just got very sick pretty quickly. And they started saying, look, we're all having these symptoms, and they tried to sue US Radium for it. And US Radium just were awful. So let me see if I can find it. There was a woman called Grace, and she got sent, they sent her a specialist to examine her condition. And it turned out that the guy they sent to examine her condition wasn't a doctor, had no background in like toxicology or anything. He was a toxicologist, but he was paid by US Radium, and he said she was perfectly fine and there was nothing wrong with her. And these women started dying. The company blamed it that they all had syphilis, and they just kept like doing more and more to like sweep it under the rug. And this is all in like the 1920s. They hired a guy from Harvard to study the conditions of the factory, and he's put out this scathing report that I had a look through. It's called Cecil Drinker, and he was saying like everyone's contaminated, like they've all got these weird blood conditions, like this is really bad, here's what you need to do, put in all these like measures in place. And the company put out the report, and they doctored it all to say that everything was fine in the factory and no changes needed to be made. And Cecil Drinker, it seems, I've only sort of read like articles on this, so take it all with a pinch of salt. It was a colleague of his called Alice Hamilton who found this report and went, did you say all of this? And Cecil Drinker went, what? No, that's not what I said at all. And so he tried to threaten legal action, but he made the information public. He published his actual report, and then US Radium sued him. because he published it.
Because it was
I don't
find something.
I have no information on whether they actually successfully did that, but and there's a quote from his report that is quite interesting. Dust samples collected in the workroom from various locations and from chairs not used by the workers were all luminous in the dark room. Their hair, faces, hands, arms, necks, the dresses, the underclothes, even the corsets of the dial painters were luminous. One of the girls showed luminous spots on her legs and thighs. The back of another was luminous almost to the waist. So these girls were just like glowing in the dark because of all this exposure. And dying from it, and there's pictures and they're pretty horrible. I don't recommend looking them up, but if you are interested, do look. Eventually they started like suing the company when these women were absolutely dying, and then US Radium just gets even worse, to be honest.
How does it get worse from here?
Oh, just wait. So they kept like slowing down proceedings, as people in the wrong want to do, but these girls were dying, like they were and it got to the point where here we go, at their first appearance in court in January 1928, 2 of them were bedridden and none could raise their arms to take the oath of these. There were 5 girls that were suing them, and they were in like back braces and things, and that which is good because it gave them publicity, because everyone was like, what's going on? But they were too ill to attend the following hearing, so US Radium were like, well, you can't do the trial then. And then like the judge adjourned the case again because several US Radium witnesses were summering in Europe and would be unavailable. And they just kept delaying it and delaying it. And eventually like the New York World newspaper got involved and like wrote like scathing articles about the judge's decision to delay it. And there was a lot of national outrage, and eventually they got an out-of-court settlement for less than they originally went for, but still a lot of money for those days. So it was $10,000, which works out to about 150,000.
That's just the people who actually sued. What about the rest of them?
Correct, but hang on, let's have a look. And also, bearing in mind, these women are dying. Like, there's nothing they can.
Yeah, it's a bit late, isn't it?
They can. And they also had all of their medical and legal expenses paid, and would receive $600 per year for as long as they lived. However, very few of those payments were connected because they all died. So the last of the famous ones, the Radium Girls, died in the 1930s, and many other factory workers died of radium poisoning without getting any kind of justice. So that's all really sad. And there's like one like silver lining to the story, and that in 1949, US Congress passed a bill making all occupational diseases compensatable. Is that the right word? Compensable, and extended the time during which workers could discover illnesses and make a claim. Because that's another thing. When they finally like were getting recognition, they were saying, well, you're past the statute of limitations to claim this. So you can't.
And that's going to be relevant to things like asbestos, I'm guessing, as well. Like that is actually something that has had an impact subsequently.
Exactly, that is, and it's an amazing law. This is US specific, but it's an amazing law that has like brought it all a bit better. So
you're proposing that Infinity does this
very quickly. So yeah, but no. So I'm not really, because actually, it's a long-term horrible. I just thought it was an interesting story and a really cool story that I think people should know about. But yeah, Infinity, and it kind of also explains the green glow kind of myth all comes from that glow in the dark paint that they were using. Now, I did find one thing in one paper that I can't find any other references to, so we'll take it with a pinch of salt, but it was there. In some very uncommon cases, radioactive materials can give off charged particles traveling at very high velocities. These particles can interact with the immediate environment to create a glow. Because if that environment includes like oxygen, nitrogen, water molecules in the air, the air, and so the atoms immediately around them will glow. It didn't give me a color.
Well, it would be the same as being ionized in the aurora. So it would be greens and blues and those kinds of colors.
Oh
my God! So you direct this beam of
so
alpha radiation at someone, which is really bad for them, but then they end up with a sort of aurora around them.
Yeah, let's go with that because that just sounds cool.
Because it's the same. It's just to do with the energy gap between, in molecules of nitrogen or molecules of oxygen. Like the size of the band gap tells you the wavelength of light that will be emitted, and that's going to be the same whether it's in the mesosphere or if it's down at the surface.
I'm glad you're here, Simon, because that was the bit I read a lot about, and I was like, I vaguely understand this, but I shan't try and explain it.
See, I thought you were going to go along with the Cherenkov radiation line, which is what you get from nuclear reactors.
You thought about it, didn't you, Bates?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I did. But
that's only in it's only in a dielectric medium, so it doesn't happen in air.
Wait,
what is it? That
was a joke. Like, what the hell is the Cherenkov? What?
Oh, so if you see pictures of a nuclear reactor, and it's like the rods in water, there's a blue glow that comes off of them, and it's basically because water is a polar substance, which means that it can be kind of not ionized is the word, but basically, you can get charges separating in it, basically. And if the radiation goes through it faster than the phase velocity of the fluid, which is like how fast in that charged medium something would move, like an electromagnetic wave, it's effectively like a sonic boom in air. But instead of, because it's electromagnetic radiation rather than a physical transverse wave, you would get a blue glow that appears. So it only happens in something like a polar substance like water.
Oh, cool.
So if you fire radiation fast enough through a polar substance, it'll glow.
Oh, sorry, no. It's charged particles. Sorry, I actually had this up. When stuff like electrons, which would be excited by presumably the radiation near the reactors.
Yeah, and I should say, when we're talking about radiation, we are, in this sense, I'm very much talking about ionizing radiation and not like light, which is technically radiation, and infrared is radiation. UV is radiation, but it is ionizing, which I didn't actually know it was ionizing radiation until today, which probably makes sense. Yeah.
Is it?
Like very low grade.
Yeah.
But it is ionizing.
Of course, because it gives you skin cancer.
It would be UVC, I guess, specifically, like the really high, frequency stuff. Because I
just read UV.
There is a video coming out this week on my channel about UV and the atmosphere.
Hey, nice. You can find out more about that by listening to Simon's video rather than me guess. So that's great.
Mine's mostly about the Montreal Protocol, but there's a little bit of UV science in there.
Hooray! But the Aurora thing, that's awesome.
Really cool. That wasn't even what I had in mind, but I love that Aurora thing. So
it fits in with Infinity's whole vibe.
So Infinity, in Guiding Beam, she's putting massively charged particles. Guiding bolts. Massively charged particles that are then ionizing the air. And it's so dense, because that's the other thing with the Aurora, is it's only visible because there's so much atmosphere that you're looking through at once. So it had to be
so dense,
insanely large amount of radiation.
But that's why she has her little, her power pack. And I did say it came from her little, central power pack that Cass did amazing art of. Everyone go look at the art of Infinity. I'm obsessed with it. And she does have a little almost Iron Man style reactor? No, just
well, if it was Iron Man, it's the arc reactor.
It's the arc reactor. Infinity's not actually an arc reactor. It's not an arc reactor.
It's your heart. Whatever you have.
It's what would be her heart.
Okay, I agree with someone in chat who just said RIP the rest of the party.
Yeah, we are very irradiated.
Well, okay, yes. But what I was saying is maybe she's got a little lead box inside her with all the radioactive stuff so that no one gets hurt.
Next episode. Tenebris, I think my teeth are falling out.
Oh, God.
Oh, no, this is not. This is so bad.
But if it's alpha particles, it doesn't get through skin, although I need it to go through skin.
I started this campaign with a full head of hair.
Alpha particles will blast its way through, it'll just sort of destroy.
Yeah.
No, alpha particles.
Well, it won't get.
They stop in a few bits of air. They just go give up.
But if they're concentrated enough, right, it'll get to wherever it's going and then smash it to pieces, right?
Oh, there's a little there's little bubbles of lead, and then when they hit someone, they
pocket radiation.
And the alpha particles go in. Pocket radiation. Lead. Okay, we're getting too complicated. Let's say there's a way that Infinity can safely store radioactive material inside her. And blast it at people. It's so useful being a robot, everyone. I can use whatever I want because I'm there's a way in the future.
I think it's fair. Yeah. I think that's fair.
Dirty bullets. Yes, as somebody's saying in Twitch chat. Because that is a thing, isn't it?
A thing?
You can have irradiated rounds, I believe.
No. Oh, that's no.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Oh, hang on. No. I'm thinking of depleted uranium rounds, which aren't actually radioactive. They use depleted uranium because it's insanely dense. That's why you use it for ammunition. Like, because it just packs so much kinetic energy if it's traveling at the same velocity as something else.
Isn't there like,
Cool.
I think I'm getting this off the Transformers, the original film, but like when the plane which fires depleted uranium rounds, like the A-10 or whatever it is sort of flying around, it has a maximum thing at which it can fire, because if it tried to fire any faster, it would basically just knock itself out of the air.
Yes,
because
the
these things are so heavy.
A-10, the Warthog. Yeah. There's a great What If comic by
Warthog.
Randall Munro about that. There's like, if you were to like ride, just ignoring ammunition concerns, like if you were just to ride the gun as like a human, like a broomstick, you could like jump mountains because it just like and then sail at this huge velocity
and never land, because you just go faster and faster and faster until just.
Well, I think
Yeah,
that
that's
was a
it.
really. I hope we're going to have more of this in future episodes, of basically taking a really specific D&D 5e mechanic and something that our characters can do, something that's happened, and coming up with some sort of sci-fi explanation for it. So
justification.
That's been really good.
Yeah.
We've got all of the druid spells to get through. I can change my spells every episode. So
Now, do we want to talk about how we're going to change the format going forwards?
I think we're going to talk about that next week when we have a little bit more time. So next week, is that right?
Brutally cut down.
No.
I think we'll talk about that next week. So,
because we do have something to talk about this week, which
we have
is
a lot of things to talk about this week.
your upcoming guest appearances on the Nature Check Marathon 50th episode, marathon. What's going on with that? I'm not involved. Tell me what's happening.
Ali, do you want to go first? Because yours is kind of relevant to our
Like,
podcast.
look, it's like, I don't know what's happening.
what?
Come on.
Yeah.
What's happening?
So I'm coming on to do a guest one shot, which is
Sunday the 17th.
17th.
yes,
This
Sunday
of
at a time.
October.
I don't know when it is.
Yeah.
Fuck! I should have looked that up.
Eastern time.
So-
Let me look up. I'll look up the times. You stall, Ali. You
Okay, stall. Thanks.
Fuck! I have no idea when this is.
What am I doing?
That's already happened.
Okay, I'm getting there.
But you're
Yeah,
doing a one shot, and it's set on Braxigantu. Is that
Yes, yeah. So I'm doing this one shot, but we're setting it in the world that everyone else here in this podcast is in, right? So it's not with the same
Braxigantu.
characters, but it is in the same world, and the consequences of that one shot will knock onto the world of Braxigantu, which you guys are playing in.
Yeah, which is pretty cool.
Also, the one shot that we did as the pilot for this was also in the same universe, right?
Oh, baby,
Yeah.
that's in the same universe.
And we
Believe me.
really messed up.
We
that
made
one.
some
That
bold
was
decisions.
fucking awesome. I can't believe you guys left it the way it was, but it's brilliant. It's so good. Like, there is a tin can full of, like, devious space worms just flying around somewhere.
This is the Ali Jennings extended universe.
It's like,
Yeah.
you know.
I'm so excited. Your one shot is obviously at 5:15 UK time on Nature Check Twitch.
That seems wrong, but yes, I believe you.
I promise
let's
you,
go with
it's
it.
not.
I thought
Okay,
that
I'm
was
glad.
when- Oh no, ours is at 2 p.m. UK time.
That's correct, Simon. It is.
And what's yours?
so-
What are you doing?
We
We
are
are-
students.
So
I wonder if we
scared.
should give away a little teaser of what our characters are, Simon.
No.
Quite honestly.
But they have a backstory, but that is all we will
Do
say.
they have a joint a link to backstory?
Yes.
You talk to each other and
Yeah.
interesting.
And
Yeah, we have.
when people watch, people are not going to want to miss the 2:00 on Sunday.
You just have to be there.
And when
there
you
is
see
the-
me and my character, I want you to know that Bates talked me into it.
They're costumes.
That's a lie, and you
Are there
know it.
costumes?
Yes, there
Will you be
there
dressed
might
up?
be costumes. I have never dressed up to play a D&D character ever in my life, and I will be doing it for the first time on Sunday. And we're not playing standard humans. Let's just say that.
Yeah. And the I think we're allowed to say the one line summary of what the adventure's going to be.
Enigma and Excessor.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
All they've released is a mystery adventure set in Excessor, the capital city of Alcon, in the in-canon world of the First Watch Show, who is another podcast who are taking part.
Right.
But
okay.
we have
Okay,
the
so-
ability to bring chaos to yet another D&D podcast.
And we will.
We don't have Shamini or Ali to rein us in. Mummy and Daddy
They
aren't
won't
here.
know how to deal with you. Oh, can I say the name of my one? It's called.
Yeah.
It's also a mystery. The mystery of the Zavira City Snatcher.
Ooh. That's fun.
What's that? Where is it?
I'm really going to struggle on our one because it's Exessa, whereas it looks like it's...
No, it's Excessor.
But it looks like it should be Exeter, but just with a "sir" on the end. Exeter.
I think it's Excessor. Oh no, wait,
Exeter.
There's no S, is there? So maybe it is. I don't remember. But come join the stream to find out.
No, I went to uni at Exeter.
Excessor.
Anyway,
Yeah, if you can have like a
I'm very excited.
psychotic break and just start like imagining yourself in Exeter with all this shit.
yeah.
So that is on Sunday, and we will be tweeting links to that and stuff. And basically, yeah, that's all being hosted by our friends Nature Check, who are basically another D&D show by scientists.
We thought we nailed it.
You
We were
didn't
like,
have enough
no.
of them.
We really thought we had the only one, and then we started and we went, oh, hey there.
Yeah, and
But they're great.
Best buddies now.
They're our America friends. It's
yes,
great.
they are. So watch that on Sunday. And then I think we hinted at the beginning that we don't have a normal episode next week. So you're going to have to wait 2 weeks for D&D Adventures. But basically next week we're going to be doing chats and catch-ups, maybe answering questions. Chat, if you have any questions, chuck us some
Put them in the
questions.
Discord. Maybe do it really soon.
But it would
so
be a
we have
great
them
place
when we do the record.
Yeah, we're pre-recording it, so it won't be live. But it will be a great place to come if you want to. If you haven't seen the episodes so far and want to jump in, like I said, we're 8 episodes in to the story. You don't need to have seen them if you come along next week and find out listen to us ramble about them.
And we should say that we're recapping the story, but we're also going to briefly recap the science that we talked about.
Well, it's all relevant.
When it's been relevant to the plot, basically.
Yeah. Super interlinked.
So if you watch that, basically you can jump in the week after, right? When we're
hit
on
the ground
a
running.
cliffhanger, knife edge,
Running on a
at the
panther.
climax.
This is a good place to start.
Yeah,
However, if you do want within the next 2 weeks to rewatch or listen to every single episode we've got so far, they are all up on our YouTube channel and on various podcast platforms. We've got 8 episodes of Dungeons and Dragons and Science. That's our ongoing D&D campaign. We've also got 8 episodes of the DnDebrief. That's what we've been doing today, and that's the
After this one goes
science chat show. Huh? After
this one
this one is not up yet unless you're listening to it, in which case it is up.
And we have the links to all of those and all of our socials on www.rpgeeksdnd.co.uk.
Nope.
What is it?
rpgeeks.co.uk.
It's just the one place.
The one place.
It's because no one had taken the URL, but they'd all taken the social media handles for us.
At RPGeeksDND are our social media handles. We're on TikTok, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram. We're anywhere else?
Probably. YouTube is RPGeeksDND.
So please
we have a
please
Discord
give us a
channel
follow.
on
Simon's
Simon's Discord.
Yeah, if it gets out of hand, we'll have to create a new Discord just for it. For the time being, we're containing it.
It's really not getting out of hand.
I'm not getting out
It's the small lead-lined box in the middle of my community Discord.
It's a lot of me and Shamini talking to each other.
Yeah,
there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
And Ali doesn't know how to work it, so we can talk about him.
I've been on there.
Sure.
He thought he was just typing in his username. It's just his one message was Ali Jennings.
Ali Jennings.
I did it like 3 times at least, and then there's a thing which was my password, but it isn't anymore. So,
did you actually type your password?
No.
He had an Ed Balls moment.
Ed Balls.
Better.
Ed Balls.
So I think we can wrap it up there, unless there's anything else that we should shout out.
I think
that was everything for this week. Well, so we'll be back live in 2 weeks here.
It's going to be so good. Do not miss it.
Yeah, well, I think that's probably a good place.
Recap next week. And
yes.
We're going to chat a lot about like our characters and fun stuff and a little bit behind the scenes maybe.
Oh, yeah.
Secrets.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Good place. Honestly, next week will be a really good place. If you've just walked in, next week is a fantastic place to jump in and get up to date and a really exciting point in the story.
Who you want to watch, but they're like, oh, I don't have time to catch up on like all of those episodes of science and fun. You'd be like, well, guess what? What a great time for you to want to join. Next week, there'll be a recap episode. That's what you should say, exactly like that, word for word, please. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. With that real like level of emotion, like as though you've really just helped them out.
God.
Oh my God, I'm so glad that we had this chat. I mean, there's a really
wow.
This
is like a turning point of your life.
Right. Okay. So thank you for watching. Thank you for watching, everybody. And we'll end the recording for the podcast here. Thank you for watching or listening, and we will see you next week with a recap of everything thus far. So thanks very much for watching, and bye.
Bye for now.